If you,
Yeah. We want to be in the cloud, for sure.
yeah,
Gratitude to, love the Sangha. I love the Sangha. Thank you all. Doug, it's a treat to see you. I'm glad that you are smiling and sitting proudly. So look forward to walking and journeying with you. With everybody. So everybody ready for a ride?
Ready.
All right. It's an honor to be here it's an honor to be asked to share. I totally am in great reverence for the beauty and of teaching and generosity that I have received from the Sangha and the process of getting and sitting in the seat. What the journey I want to go on is going to start with a poem, it's going to end with a poem, and then follow a thread of my experience, my art, and my kind of budding understanding. So to get us, the starting point is to talk about Tuva. So this relates to the first poem I'm going to give, recite. And I didn't know there was such a thing as Tuva. No, it's a region. It happens to be in Russia now. It historically is part of Mongolia, Mongols. And interestingly, amazingly, is the geographic center of Asia, epicenter of Asia. This region, area of our world that has been so meaningful to all of us. And this, I would like to share, if you guys can see, is a taste of what's happening, what's vibrating there, both to get us all on the same page in terms of this poem, but also just to kind of set a resonance for. Oh.
I don't know if it's just me, but I'm not able to hear anything.
yeah, we're not able to hear.
Why did you guys speak up?
We didn't, I don't know.
We heard it for you.
Okay, we heard it for you.
We heard it for you.
I'll
Thank
give
you.
a very quick taste
Yeah. I was-
on my phone. Yeah, here.
Yeah, please speak up.
You also didn't get the joint that we passed around?
Can you hear?
I think you have more than one mic on in the same room and it's feeding back.
The mic on the laptop.
Maybe we do the top right, the green icon at the top right, do the
musician
We
off.
can't hear you. So that's no
Green
good.
icon up here.
Right there, yeah, click on that. That should be,
Okay. All right. Well,
did it go to music?
I'll send it out to everybody so you can give it a listen.
Oh, I don't see anything
It'll
up
work,
here.
it'll work well to
Up
hear
in
it
the
out.
green. Just click on the green and to the right of the green, click on that, right there. Okay, thank you.
Oh.
That should say it's off.
Okay,
How do I get that?
there we go.
Either it's on or off, and that they can't.
How do I stop screen share?
Mark, you want to jump in here?
Should just be a feature of stop screen share.
It says off up there, right?
Doug, can you stop the screen share?
This is off.
You,
Okay.
you can stop it.
Perfect. Okay, now
Nice
you can
one.
blow that out.
Maya gets the chocolates.
It takes a community.
Thank
Yes,
you,
it does.
everybody. Okay. So Maya's going to demonstrate now what we just heard. So I'll send it to everybody, but it speaks to it in the poem, which is these beautiful,
Can I have your phone, please? It can't be that it wouldn't. Hold on, let me try. If I may, one more time.
here it is.
It can't be that it won't work. I mean, they can hear you. Why wouldn't they hear the phone?
It was just,
You can do it right
it's
now.
just getting too much.
Like I just missed her. She's a Hertz Gold Plus member, so no wait.
Can you hear that ad?
Yeah.
Skip the line.
Can you
get
hear
right
it?
to your destination. That's why you go with Hertz.
Yes,
you
we
hear it?
can.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay, so
can.
now they'll be able to hear. It can't be. It doesn't make any sense.
Tom Brady is rich.
Tom Brady. Okay.
Well, if it's on YouTube, can we
Spotify?
just play it on our phone?
Aren't you gonna read the poem?
Wait, just a sec.
We can't hear anything right now.
Nothing.
Yeah, we don't hear anything.
Okay,
It's not recognizable as vocal.
okay.
There's some AI.
Well, thank you for bearing with me as we navigate our technical issues here. So I'll jump into the poem and I'll share that, which you'll enjoy kind of going back to it.
Please speak up.
Yes, I will speak up.
Thank you.
Tell me if you need me to speak louder to hear.
This is good.
So this is a poem by a lovely woman named Rosemary Watola Tromer, and it's called For When People Ask, For When People Ask. When people ask, I want a word that means okay and not okay. More than that, a word that means devastated and stunned with joy. Devastated and stunned with joy. I want the word that says, I feel it all at once. The heart is not like a songbird, singing only one note at a time. More like a Tuvan throat singer, more like a Tuvan throat singer, able to sing both a drone and simultaneously 2 or 3 harmonics high above it. A sound, the Tuvians say, that gives the impression of wind swirling among rocks. It gives the impression of wind swirling among rocks. The heart understands swirl. How churning of opposite feelings weaves through us like an insistent breeze, leads us wordlessly deeper into ourselves. Blesses us with paradox, so we might walk more openly into this world so rife with devastation, so ripe with joy. So it's that paradox, the devastation, the joy, the tension between the two that I guess I'm here to share kind of where my journey into this. And it starts recently with a call. I received a call, literally a call, to go to Asia. My daughter, my 22-year-old daughter, said, "Hey, Dad, come join me and my boyfriend for the holidays in Asia." And I said, actually, I have something else. I have something planned. And she's like, "No, really? Join me. Join us." So I did. And I went to Hong Kong, which happens to be the birthplace of our relationship. These lovely, beautiful men here who have my back, and the lovely Phelps on the other end of the Zoom, where we met a few years ago, and have a magnificent friendship and love and connection that has brought us here to this time, and continues to be fruitful. And it was a time when we were, let's say, most of us were in our 20s or early 30s, and it was a very formative time, and there was a certain energy in that place and space and time in our lives. And here I was with my 22-year-old daughter at about exactly the same point in my life, and kind of reconnecting with that energy in that place. And then went to Japan, which happened to be the place that I fell in love, my first great love. Yeah, but still is so real. And it was in the midst of what we call in Asia, a typhoon, a hurricane, as we know it, and the men and people in Florida know it well. But in the midst of a typhoon, that I was in Japan on business and went down to meet this lovely lady that I just met a couple weeks before. I was invited down there, and in the middle of this, I guess it was kind of the eye of this typhoon, there happened to be a magnificent little sushi restaurant open, and it happened to be a bar with a fresh bottle of Johnny Walker Swing, and woo!
Say no more.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And that romance and that beauty, that incredible joy, was rich, and ended up with 2 daughters as a result of it. And it was also devastating. It ended with kind of my nuclear, unraveling, which led to so much, which led me here. But it was a very, very painful and identity, ego crushing opportunity in my life. So I went back there, was there with my daughter and her boyfriend, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was a pilgrimage for me. And I went to this town called Bizen, which is the heart, one of the centers of Japanese pottery. It's the place and one of the key birthplaces of what is known now as wabi-sabi, at least as it relates to ceramics and pottery. And this is a town 1,000 years old that's been excavating, carving pieces from the land and crafting it, and creating these magnificent vessels and creations. And was there and able to see these old kilns and meet and see some of these master potters and really connect. And it for me, I've been doing pottery for, I guess, 15 odd years, but that aesthetic, the wabi-sabi, which is it's beyond description, but essentially the heart of it is finding the perfection in the imperfection. It's the essence. It's more a feeling and a felt sense and a connection with the art, with life, in a way that is beyond words, but there's still something we know, and it connects in our soul in a way that is so deep and beautiful. And it's this interrelation between nature and what comes and what nature has gifted us, and we gracefully or gratefully extract and then form with our hands. And it's this interplay between the two, and what comes of it, the art, the creations that come of it are wabi-sabi. They are not our ideal, Western ideal of perfection. They are earthy and organic and alive, and there's a life in them, and there's a soul in them, and a connection that you just imbue. And then there's also another piece of that in the ceramics world called kintsugi. And kintsugi is honoring the life of something and honoring that this has been used and worked and it has a history. And so if it breaks, you don't just throw it away. It's not just disposable. You heal it. You bring it back together. And in kintsugi, you take a pot, you take a cup that breaks, and you don't throw it away. You don't try to cover up the cracks. You highlight them. You fill them with gold or silver. And they become more precious. They actually sell for more money in our capitalistic, this is the value. But it's highlighting that this cup, this piece has gone through a lot. And here it is. Here it's still sharing, giving itself, allowing us to, have it be a part of our life in a beautiful way. So to be there, to experience that, to see that, and that's what I try to do in my ceramics and my pottery, and I've just gravitated toward that type of that art, that feeling. There's the beautiful, where's the pot that was right there? The ceramic.
That is in the back room at the present time.
The ceramic here, the beautiful, ornate, detailed, pristine porcelain. That's one whole wonderful, beautiful stream. And in the Japanese world, they initially took all that influence from China and they adopted that and brought it in. And then it was birthed out of their own, soul. What was the word? Some aesthetic, but yeah, their own beingness of the land, of the people, of their culture, of everything. The wabi-sabi, this different, very extreme difference from the ornate, polished perfection to the rough hewn, worn, not even symmetrical, different aesthetic, and how that evolved. And somehow, for whatever reason, it really connects deeply with me. And that's the type of pottery that really excites me. And that's what I see kind of influencing my world in connection to it. So I started doing pottery, I guess it was about 15 years ago. And it happens that I was gifted this picture. I'll just show you briefly and then I'll pass it around. This is a print, a photograph from, you can see it there, that Ansel Adams took in 1932, just down the street here in Menlo Park at the Allied Arts Guild. And it's interesting to me, one is Ansel Adams, like, whoa, he's taking a picture of a potter, that's cool. And two is it's 1932, it's like in the heart of the Depression, right? People were making art. And to me, when I look at this, I don't think it's an original. It came from my mother-in-law, sadly. I don't think she gave me an original Ansel Adams, but to me, what speaks to me is this intimacy, the connection between the potter, these hands, and the clay, and the strength of these hands, and also the tenderness and gentleness, and the really, like the flow, and you can see they're talking, the conversation that they're having together. And it's, how do you find that connection? And when I work with clay, when you work with clay, there is an infinite number of things that can go wrong. You're always kind of on that edge of, you're taking this lump of clay, this lump of earth, and you're forming it. You have an idea. You have something you want that, at least I'll speak for myself, I want to a shape or some sort of form or some sort of usage that utility that I want to form from it. And it talks back to me. I have a level of skill. I have to imbue force into the clay, my force and muscle and energy into it, and it talks back to me. You know, it has its own life. It's come from the riverbed somewhere. Here we get it packaged and I can buy it from a store in Japan where I visited in Bizen. You go back to the potter studio and there's piles of this clay that they've harvested, but then they have to get just the right integration for what they're trying to do. They know the colors and the shape and how it's the texture and how it's gonna the sense of how it's gonna fire and how it's gonna create what they're trying to express. And we start on a wheel spinning. There's different ways to make ceramics. You know, one you can piece things together or you can start with the wheel. Been throwing lately on my wheel. And the starting point is centering. We call it centering. It's actually not the starting point. There's a lot that goes into the prep and getting it to that point. The discipline of wedging it and getting it to just the right form. So it starts to want to line up. So you start to line up with the clay and you put it on there and you center. And as we know, centering is not a one-time deal. We center and then we do something and then we recenter and then we do something else comes up and it's a continually coming back to presence and to center. And as we, have moments of uncentering and of, oh, what do I have to do tomorrow or whatever? And then, oops, I pushed a little bit too much in that spot, and in trying to form this clay like Ansel does, or the picture there, forming this clay into what you want, there is this complete back and forth interplay of what I want and what the clay, and trying to find that balance point, that center point, and that agreement. And then you think you get off in different ways. I was working on this thing of clay and I got a little bit too thin towards the bottom and it started collapsing on me. It's like, oh my God. And we're always worried about failure and about, it ruining and wasting our time and effort and all that. And it's still there to some degree, but the more skilled you are, the more okay, if this one isn't quite right, then I know I can do it again. And it is in getting to that edge, right? That's where the excitement is. That's where the learning is like getting it to that thinness or getting that shape and that structure, that it's right on the edge of collapsing and being and magnificence. And it is playing at that edge. And if you're not playing at that edge, then there's not the learning, there's not the newness, there's not the, it is coming into that unknown and finding that place of connection. So take a breath. And we take a breath when I'm potting or whatever I'm doing. And the realizing that the tension in that, and it's playing the two. There's the clay, there's me, and it's that interplay between the two and coming to that point. And it is this balance between force and being present and relaxation and openness to what presents itself over and over and over again. And then you get it done. And then yesterday I went back to finish up my pot and I was like, oh my God, it had dried too much. And there's all the elements and what the outside, what the temperature is, and whether it's in the sun or not in the sun, that are all factors in all this. And I thought that I'd lost the pot, thought I'd lost it. And I kind of said, oh. And then I found a way to revitalize it. I soaked it in some water and it came back to life. And we had a little dance. We did our little dance and ended up with this, oh, wow, magnificent pot. I love that. I love that. So that's the art in which I find myself personally kind of immersed in, and the dance I'm doing in that, and see it so clearly in my life that I am that clay and you are that clay and we're all that. And life is that potter. And we have this exchange and we're trying to find the balance in all that and trying to find our way in that. And the clay comes from the sediment of the river, and we come as in the flow of awakening, and that sediment of our ancestors and the sediment of our experiences and the settlement of the environment and the place. And somehow that has congealed into this clay that ends up in this body, in this form that we're in, that we get to play with, we get to play in. And sometimes it crashes disastrously. And sometimes we get to, the wow, full expression or expressing something that is really meaningful to us and that speaks to us. And then hopefully where it really touches when it speaks to others in that dance. And so I find myself at a place now in my life where I'm in that tension, in that paradox. On one hand, I'm with you guys and all that you have brought into my life. And it's been this incredible ride, incredibly joyous, fulfilling, freeing place and space and deepening sense of myself that I'm in. And then I also have this other part of my life that I'm unwinding this relationship, and it's incredibly painful, and there's so much loss and grief, and it was this second great love of my life, and it's ended in that form. And I see how they each play with each other. I wouldn't feel this joy. It's like I was in the relationship. It ended up being this, tighter and tighter, grip, which got very, very painful within that. And there is the release of just that, of releasing and stepping out of that. And then what all the pieces that followed and that are continuing to follow and awaken in me. And then there's this, this knot that I'm trying to unwind of our finances and relationship, but it's influenced, and more seeing it influenced by the joy, by the energy, by the shift in myself and how I line up with that, and the support that shows up in doing that. So it's that interplay again, and that, and it's the wabi sabi, it's the beauty and light and soul of this imperfect creation that I'm in the middle of. And we're all in the middle of our own and our collective. And the richness of it, and a lot of tears and a lot of laughter and more of that coming through. And yeah, and I'm grateful to be here in it and learning in it with all of you. So with that, I will end with another poem with less technical involvement. The String. Between two opposing points, I find the thread of possibility. For they are connected, and one begates the other, not exclusively, but in the dance of necessity. For joy does not exist without devastation, as the night does not exist without the day, and the traveler does not exist without the winding road. While we mourn our loss and grieve what could have been, we remain limp within the confines of our noose that wraps its serpentine self around our neck and cuts our breath and circulation. But it is the courage to pull the string taut, the courage to pull the string taut beyond all measure of reason, to engage our willful lust for some other unknown we secretly know is waiting for us, lurking around the corner just out of sight. The insight or sleight of hand that reveals itself in the notes that dance forth, in the vibration of the master's strum, in the tension that bridges the great chasms and gives us purchase to step into our future along the razor's edge, the ever so fine line that can bring us to the me and you that has been foretold, that can cut us in half, at the slightest misstep, revealing the precious cargo we have been gifted to share. Thank you.
Rachel?
Randy, thank you so much for sharing of yourself. It's really, I mean, I speak personally, it's wonderful to see you, and wonderful to see you. And thank you for sharing your experience and your learning perspective. You know, a while ago, I mean, in our Sangha, I've recognized that the opportunity to give a Dharma talk or to even speak with each other is an opportunity for self-discovery and self-learning and self-reflection and growth of ourselves. But it, you know, also it's an opportunity to help each other as well and shine a different perspective, a different light on the same thing that the same piece of clay that we all are playing with. Your description of the working with clay transported me back to, gosh, almost 30 years ago when I was meddling on the wheel. And yeah, I found myself laughing at the centering and recentering and oops, try it again, do it again. And it's so apt. It's such a powerful metaphor, powerful simile actually for the opportunity to do that. And for me, the clay is a relationship, you know, it's the relationship we have with each other. When it gets off center, we just bring it back. You know, it's just one, you know, opportunity upon opportunity to relate, to be with each other and co-mold, you know, partner in molding the relationship we have with each other. And the your description of the wabi-sabi, did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tremendous. You know, I love the fact that they don't throw things away, that they take pieces that have had a history, have had a service or had a life and make it whole again with the scars. They celebrate the scars. To me, it speaks of childbirth and you know, injuries that we've sustained, our bodily and emotional scars. Wear them like patchwork, you know, like to be celebrated with the stitches and the scars and everything. Um, yeah. Yeah, proof of a life being lived, and proof of lessons learning, and opportunities to teach others, to share a story so that somebody else might garner some iota of personal growth for themselves. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate it all and love you. Definitely. Yeah. A life worth living. That's what it speaks to.
For your talk today, the wabi-sabi of patching broken pottery with gold or silver. Do you see a metaphor in that in repairing relationships, broken relationships? And what is it? What is the medium that's used to reconnect, make work again? And often it's like broken trust. And how is that repaired? Is it with gold? Is it with silver? Have you taken that understanding of wabi-sabi to other ways, other realms?
Yeah, it's a huge question. And I get what I've been playing with lately and seeing is there's the physical relationship, and then there's the deeper energetic, spiritual, however you want to call it, relationship. So for me right now, the repair is happening, I feel deeply at the inner level of, being able to really, I've had this experience recently of, having this beautiful engagement with my parents, and then with my ex-wife, an old girlfriend as well. These where there's unspoken and old trauma and things that haven't been fully expressed, but seeing and seeing on the inside in my inner world, and believing and knowing and feeling in our oneness, the connection. So in being able to connect with compassion and love for where they've been and what they've come through and their weathering and brokenness, cracked openness, that there's in some cases, still struggling, still embroiled in that, but having that deeper sense of love, appreciation, gratitude for them as teachers, and honoring that spirit that I know in my ex-wives. Let's put it put it out there. That's a tough relationship, a tough experience to go from that complete, euphoric love to, well, hate's a strong word, but in complete conflict and completely disconnected, cut out. How do you go from that there to there, and realizing, in those relationships as I'm, reconnecting now with my first ex, yeah, there's so much shared experience and so much beauty and so much that that came out of that connection, right? So, but clearing that on the inside, and I'm starting, in my own first with my first ex, I said, hey, can I come over? Can we get together? It starts with that. It starts in that relationship with the clay, reconnecting and moisture and putting if the clay gets too dry, then it chatters, and if it's too wet too, so it's not coming at it from oh God, a broken down position, and it's not coming at it from up against each other, but it's finding that right space to which to stand in our humanness, my humanness, I started with, I know I've hurt you. And I'm deeply sorry for that. And I am asking for forgiveness and want to reconnect. And that's the process that is happening now with with A, the girl's mom. And what's that substance, that gold, that silver, that elemental connection. It's a common shared love. It's a common humanity. It's a common you hurt me, but I got hurt by you, but you hurt me. I hurt you. I know I did. That's what I can own and what I have control over. And in the current unfolding, I'm not at a place to do it directly, but I'm doing it and feeling it and living in it at an energetic and at a deeper, soulful level, playing in that space, and shifted myself in that space into love. I guess the glue is love. Yeah. Bottom line.
Thank you.
Ben,
Yeah, Ben.
no, he's doing
Can't hear.
something.
Okay,
He's doing
he's muted.
I think he's doing
He's
something.
trying to unmute, I think. Hi, Ben.
Hi.
Hi.
So I was thinking about Kintsugi and how you fix the cracks with gold, and it's so much more valuable with those cracks being fixed than if you just have a gold vessel to begin with. It does, like a gold vessel, let's say, sorry, gonna go back and say it's a teacup, and the teacup shatters and you fix it with gold on all the cracks. But if you just have a gold teacup, it may not shatter, but it just doesn't hold the same value. Like, it's kind of cheapened by the fact that it's all gold. So yeah, I think that as you were intimating, it does speak to relationships. Like, relationships are better when there's some little little fixing going on. It just the strength is not just restored, it's amplified when you start looking at the cracks in relationships and fixing them. So yeah, thank you for your talk. It's very good. I enjoyed hearing about Wabi Sabi and Kintsugi. Those are two of my favorite topics.
Great. Well, we have a lot to talk about. Thank you, Ben. That is beautifully said.
Chris.
Morning. Thank you for the talk. I'm unmuted. Yeah, for whatever reason, I guess my job was getting to me in corporate IT about 30 years ago, and I decided to pick something completely as opposite to that as I could come up with. So I took up stained glass, and so I bought all this equipment and all this glass and got into it. And the idea is, in addition to the design, is when you put these pieces together, you have to grind them just right. Otherwise, the seams will be inconsistent and kind of blotchy looking. And then the solder has to be done just right. And so I became a perfectionist about that, and trying to get it just right, and then I get frustrated if it wasn't right and start over again. And it didn't take me long to realize that pieces that, they actually have manufactured stained glass pieces now, and they have absolutely no character. I mean, they're kind of pretty, but they're missing something, right? They're too perfect, and then I realized that that's what gives it a piece like that its kind of soul or its beauty. And I loosened up on that requirement quite a bit. So when it comes to people, well, the other thing that I realized about that is that, well, to some people, symmetry is the ideal, that somehow is perfection. But Wabi Sabi, I think the principle of that says that it doesn't have to have symmetry, but it can have balance and harmony. In fact, in the asymmetry, you can often find the balance and harmony. And so, yeah, and at another point, I took up, just very casually, mind you, ikebana, which is flower, just arranging flowers in the Asian style, which is kind of like feng shui. It's again asymmetric, but you just know when it's right? You can just feel when it's right, and so I think that's definitely worthwhile. So I was thinking of Sangha when you were talking about how that connects to us. I think Sangha wouldn't be nearly as powerful if we all were thinking the same, on the same level, and the same things, and all have the same backgrounds and the same personalities and the same moods at any given time, and that wouldn't be very interesting, would it? So it's all those differences, and it's that dynamic uh, environment, and how sometimes we're broken and sometimes we're joyous and sometimes we just need connection, and so those are like the cracks that we fill in each other's cracks the best we can. And like Leonard Cohen says, the cracks are how the light gets in.
Joaquin?
Kim,
Thank you for your speech, and thank you, Chris. You just took my words out of my mouth, because I wanted to share one story and another thought. We've been in France somewhere with my wife, and we wanted to buy some pictures for our walls, and there were beautiful pictures. And then, you know what we bought was this one. This was a crack. And I just thought about it. There is a crack where the light comes through, you know, like Leonard Cohen said. This was a picture. This was what I bought because there was life in it. And it reminds me the whole story of something like perfect imperfection. Children. When you have children, we have 4 and 10 grandchildren, and they want to present something to you for a birthday or for Christmas or something like that. And they paint a picture. You know, little children paint a picture with all their heart, with all their emotion. And this picture should, once in a while, you have to ask, what is this? What could it be? Yeah. And they say, this is a house, this is a dog, and this are you, mom and dad. And you can see it. Yes, you can see it. And you know, there is so much love in this picture from this son or from this daughter, from this child. It is so imperfect, but it's perfect. And in thinking about that, I came to the conclusion that something perfect is something for a museum, for the modern arts, for a picture, for a statue, like a goddess you can praise or you can pray for. But my own experience is when something is imperfect, there is it draws to my attention. I look at it. I'm very interested in that. There is an interest in people or things, and my conclusion is you cannot love something that's perfect. It's impossible. So I leave it up to you.
Yeah, selfie was hidden. Oh no, I don't know why this camera's not on. Oh well. Hello.
You can turn the camera to.
this thingy.
Oh yeah,
there you
well
go.
I'm there now.
Okay.
I don't know why this camera's not working.
Hi,
Um,
Maya. I'm glad to see you there. Hi, Maya. I don't
Hi.
see you, but I hear you.
Oh, interesting. You can't see me. Okay, well,
Just turn the camera. Turn the
Oh,
camera.
there I can see you now. I can see you now. Hi, 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 hi.
all right. So this has been so rich. Thank you for laying such a rich symbolic experiential, personal thing. Very cool. And then the first, then it just sort of went to the next level when with Doug's question for me. And so there's a lot of different layers of my response. So we'll just see what makes it out my mouth right now. One thing that comes up, oh, what was the last thing that was said about you? Oh, right. Really good one. I have to sit with. You can't love something that's perfect. Okay, so that's a little inquiry that I will take. And so then we love the Sangha. It's not perfect. Okay, so there's that. There's and that relates to something that's been a bit on my mind. And the rhyme, the little song that I don't know if it's well known. It's just make new friends and keep the old. One is silver and the other gold. And so I've been sitting with, in different ways, what is the difference between a new relationship and one that has stood the test of time, and what is the appropriate level of, is this to be fixed with gold? That kind of thing. And so really appreciating then also the layer of the experience today of the longevity of the connections, let's say, that you have in this room today, is very significant. This has stood the test of time, and that's not a small thing. If one of these relationships has a crack, that's probably worth fixing with gold. And then another sort of aspect of the metaphor was the difference between a living creation of a clay container and how does that get fixed? It gets fixed with clay or fixed with water. It's a living thing. It doesn't have a set form yet. But at some point, maybe a longer relationship, or, I mean, it just is a thing in my mind. It's like, when does a relationship become fired and hold it? This is what it is, and this is what it's meant to be. Then maybe it shatters and then you fix it, or not. Sometimes it's just in 100 pieces and it's not something that's supposed to be salvaged. Or not. I mean, it's like, I don't know. There's just, it's such a rich metaphor for me to have this question. Or have this symbol or metaphor to play off of. Yeah, all right, let me see if there's anything a little more coherent.
I will, at the end.
Oh, I don't know what that was. Okay.
I mean, Doug just said he has to go lay down.
Oh, okay.
It's hurting me.
Oh, darn. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, keep going. I'm gonna listen on my cell phone.
On too.
All right, let me just check in.
Good that you're resting.
Did they fix that silver or gold?
I'm glad.
Yeah, I guess I'll just end by saying that did not convey something of richness, but thank you. I did. Oh.
If I may, I'm sorry, Mark.
Oh, yes. Is it okay if I
Oh, please go.
ran into a couple of things you said that really struck me. The
Can you speak up just a little bit, please?
A
Wait,
couple of things,
Let me hold it closer to him.
Okay, thank you.
couple of things Randy said that really struck me. One was the power and devastation of your first love. And that really resonated for me because especially that first love, it's sort of that all encompassing and you see the potential and then the devastation. And I think it was paradox or just the contradiction of with great potential comes great risk and devastation. And then the analogies you carried on with the clay working and working the clay. And I was with you last night when you were finishing your piece. And I love the story of you came back to the piece and it was too dry. You couldn't work it. You couldn't finish it. And then you put it in water and you were able to finish it. And I saw that piece and it was beautiful. And it really, in some ways, drew the analogy to me of what you were just describing, how you're rebirthing your relationship with A. And I think it's your comment of sometimes things get rigid and they shatter, which is what happened with your relationship, and there's devastation. And now you're coming back to it and starting to put the pieces back together. And they're just, as you said, the analogy is beautiful. And I guess the last piece I wanted to say is that when I think of being a potter and making clay, and I loved your analogy of, you have to soar to the edge and you have to pull the piece to the edge. We want to play at that edge, but it's dangerous. It can collapse. But in some ways, it's the journey. Mm-hmm. And when we're young, we want to be in love and connected and build a family. But, and so it's not just creating the pottery, the art, because that's stable, that's rigid. It's actually that journey of every day getting up and making the pottery. Mm-hmm. And being the experience and being in the relationship. And when you're young, you're looking for structures that make you complete or, but now that we're older, we don't need that as much as anymore. And we can enjoy the journey and the devastation because they go hand in hand.
Right. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
I want to say something about the word devastation. So that sense of devastation is also attachment. Mm-hmm. It's an attachment that feels safe. So if you dig deeper into that, why stay in attachment? There's devastation and the resulting emotions. They are the opposite of indifference. And so I want to propose to you that it's all love, which is what you were saying. And thank you so much for your talk. I could relate to it deeply. The point of being at the edge, and this relates to what you said, Mark, we are at the edge all the time. It's just, do we recognize it or not? Do we have the courage to recognize that every moment we're actually could be the last breath? Mm-hmm. And when we do and we go, oh, this could be my last breath, this could be my last year, there's a sense of freedom that comes from that. That is, it's not morose, it's actually splendor, actually, that comes from that moment of, oh my gosh, this could be my last breath. Whoa, I don't want to be in fear. I'm going to jump off that cliff. And you jump off the cliff and you soar, and there is this, okay, there's this, okay, however, okay. And that's the secret of connection. The secret of connection is to be able to withstand it all. So, yes, as the pot is falling apart, can you see the pieces of gold that are there? And can you say, this is gold, and this too is gold, and this is a connection, and this is a relationship. and it doesn't go away until I'm indifferent, whether I want to see the person every day or not. The relationship is part of my life, and therefore I care.
Mhm, mhm.
And I also want to say that related to what the Buddha, the second most important teaching I felt from the Buddha, the first, of course, is that we're all interrelated, and really spending all of my life to discover the truth of that we are the same entity. And we're here we're here for each other. No kidding, like we really are here for each other. So that is, but the second most point is to verify. He says, don't take my word for it, verify everything I say. And what that means to me is that he says, what so much of what's been discussed here, live your life from your life. You know, the Dharma is your blood. It's not my words, it's not the ink, it's your blood. And so to me, that's always meant that. It's like, I can read a Dharma book and it could take me years to understand a very small paragraph, because until I get it into my blood, it's not real for me, and I'm not real for it. And so to me, your relationship to clay is Dharma. It's life. That's why I went and got your pot. I want to acknowledge your life. That is my life. And it's like clay is dirt, and our life is dirt. It's messy. I feel that being Buddhist is being able to hang in connection, no matter how messy it gets.
Mhm. Thank you. A couple things. That is my pot. I
It is
didn't
your
even
pot.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a couple pieces I'll show. This is. Can we see? This is one that is now in the Frank and Alana Museum of Love. So it has a permanent residency here.
He did buy it for my birthday.
Yeah, Frank bought for Alana's birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me of that. And this is one that came recently out of the firing, the Japanese style Anagama firing I do over in the East Bay. At Christmas time, I do it every year. And this is really, in a way, I brought it as kind of the example of a wabi-sabi. Whereas it was straight when I formed it, but the firing has kind of given it, there's a gesture to it now, and there's a life to it. And it's rough. You can't really touch it here, but it's rough and it's shiny and it's everything. And that's kind of it has a nice crack in the bottom, so I can pay extra. I can charge extra for it because it has a crack. Oh, I just started. That would be ash, and I'm covered with ash, covering the floor with ash. But a couple of things I wanted to say. Thank you for that. Thank you, everybody. But this attachment, yeah, we get so attached to things that I just had the experience of. I formed a pot for a friend that I'm making for a friend, and it was a sphere. And in the morning, I went out, and the top had collapsed in, and I was like, "Damn!" And then I looked at it a little bit later, and I said, "Damn, that's great. I love that." It had given me something new, character, and something that was beyond what I had envisioned it to be. But there's attachment to that pot if it cracks. And as a potter, you learn to let go, because you know, you make lots of pots and you get, a potter is always, I guess, as we all are, our own greatest critic, but you know, it doesn't quite look like you wanted it to, and it comes out of the kiln or whatever. But then you know, the potter rule is, okay, stop your judgment, sit with it, let it sit for a couple weeks, and then go back to it. And you go back and you're like, oh yeah, well, I like this, I like this, I like that. But this idea, and kind of tying together Maya, the three of you, but around attachment and it breaking and relationship breaking. Yeah, it feels like my current marriage has broken. That relationship is shattered into a gazillion pieces. And do I want to put that together? I want to bring love to it. I want to heal. I want her to have a wonderful life, to go forward and to be free and to free myself.
Right.
Something in it is the freedom. Did you say that? Like the fracture is the freeing and the release. And what it has freed up in me is a deeper connection with lots of people. I had a deep, rigid connection that had, you know, varying degrees of life to it and over the course of the relationship. But in that rupturing, fracturing, it's opened up all these other relationships, all these other pots.
Yeah.
I'm growing and continuing to live in. So that's kind of my lived in experience of that.
You actually changed.
Well, I didn't change. I've become more of myself,
You
as my dear teacher would tell me. You are that.
Yeah.
And yes.
Yeah.
But thank you. Yeah, I recognize that. Thank
You took the bushel off.
Yes, that's it.
you. Hey, what's your ashes to ashes? The bushel off.
Something from the Bible.
Is
Taking
it?
the bushel off.
Okay, keep talking,
off the
Greg.
fire-
You're
off-
going now.
Yeah, Greg, it's your thing.
You got it going.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear Greg? Here, I'll hold it.
I was just saying that the
Something.
You just lost the connection here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're back. Nope, we're off. We're back.
We're here.
Oh. It's like the video thing.
No, it's.
Oh, yeah, the video's on.
Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
Can, we're trying to, here we go.
Click it.
There we go.
Now I can see you.
Just to finish what I was saying, there's a Bible, there's a verse in the Bible about taking your light off your bushel. I think I could be not paraphrasing it well, but that's what I'm thinking. This we're talking about getting broken and put back together again, and maybe what with Randy, what Alana just said is this rupture has removed the bushel that was over his light. So it was, like he said, he's just more of me. Now we can all see more of Randy because the bushel is not there to obstruct the light from coming from him, which is what we all have.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing it's not all that wise or interesting, but just this whole thing about the cracks in our pots that we are, and it's those cracks that, you know, that's the life well lived, and it is those cracks that we don't want. We don't want to be broken and cracked, and yet it's the putting back together, isn't it? I think it's true that if you break a leg or a bone, then when you stick it back together and it grows back together, it actually gets stronger. I think that's true. I could be wrong, but I like it anyway. So
I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, sticking with that. But the gold and the silver cracks that do remain, that are our claim to have lived a life well lived, and I'm going to stick with that.
Amen. Sometimes it's just fun to break shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks. There's a few ceramicists amongst us. I used to manufacture bricks, and I know Charles used to repair pottery. So, yeah, we have a great appreciation of that. I really wanted to thank you, Ilana, for what you were saying about no separation between beings. That really is the important part. And when you criticize another, you're criticizing yourself, and then you become more evil, not less. That's somewhere in the Lotus Sutra, I think. So, not to pick and choose, not to be for or against. It doesn't mean to say that you have your eyes shut, but you don't judge either. And then you can love unconditionally. And when you love unconditionally, that is without attachment. So, thank you.
Yeah, when you love unconditionally, that is without attachment. Thank you, Angyo.
A mother loves her child unconditionally, I believe, an infant child, and she's profoundly attached to the infant. You see that?
Yes, yes.
And us as well. And I think what we call attachment is conditioning. But when things are attached and the blood is flowing and the light is shining through the connection, that is unconditional love. It's such an attachment that everything is, that there is no disconnect is another way to say it. So I'm playing with words, I know, but
yeah,
I do have a thing about, as you all know, it's my thing about attachment and deep intimacy, to the point of really making ourselves see each other.
Yeah, if I could just jump on that, because I also have tension with words and what people really mean. But when I think about what Angyo said, when you love unconditionally, there's no attachment to the outcome, no attachment to the behavior, no attachment to the response, no attachment to the expectation of what should follow, no attachment to the next moment. When I love unconditionally, it's just all being present. It's the intimacy. What you're saying is the intimacy of the connection with the now and the person and the need or the delivery or whatever. Yeah, that's, for me, that's how that really showed up.
If I could just jump in again, it's to love without the need to have it returned.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for that. Wow. Wow. Charles.
Back in the day when I was in my mid-20s, I worked in open heart surgery, and I had a room that had a window that looked down into the operating theater, and there was a surgery going on, and I'm looking straight into a hole in this person's chest, and the phone rang. And I've been there for a couple of years, and the phone had never, or for several years, and the phone had never rang in that particular office. And I get on the phone, and I said, hello. And they go, is this Charles Wool? And I go, yes. And they said, well, several years ago, you applied for an apprenticeship doing porcelain and pottery restoration, and you've been accepted into the program. Anyway, some months later, I was living in London and learning how to do restoration. And I was working with 3 women who were excellent artists at this art. And it was very frustrating for me because it was such a slow process of learning how to stick things back together properly and learning how to match colors. And it was an exciting process, but a very slow process. And what I want to get into was that there were 2 types. Well, first of all, I want to mention that when you fire a piece,
it will shrink between 5 and 15%. And the pottery or porcelain is, when it is fired, depending on the thickness and other inconsistencies in the piece, it will be under a certain amount of stress. Like certain pieces get firing cracks in them. You've probably seen those. And when a piece breaks, it pops apart essentially, and it never goes back together like it was originally. It can be pretty close, but it will never be exactly the same because of these stresses that it was under. Anyway, so there are two types of restoration, and one that Randy had described is highlighting where the cracks were. And you can do that with ceramic material, you can do that with gold, you can do that with silver, you can, etc. And when you repair a piece like that and you highlight the cracks, that is what is called a museum restoration. Because typically museums do not want any paint over or any additions to the piece other than what was originally there. So if you go to a museum, sometimes you will see gold, or sometimes you will see just acrylic material or whatever it is that's put in the cracks so that you will see the piece back in its original form, but they will show you the damage in the piece. The other form is called invisible restoration. And that is the challenging part, because what you have to do is first stick the piece back together. And as I said, when something breaks, it is never like it was originally. There are slight ridges on it. It is slightly out of kilter compared to what it was originally. So you have to grind those, and you have to put many coats of material on it each time, and you sand it down, and you get it almost to the point where it, to the feel, is perfect. In other words, you can't, if you close your eyes and you rub your fingers over the piece, you can't tell that it was broken, even though that there will be a little bit of excess that had gone anyway. And then the hard part comes, is because what you have to do is match the color of the piece. And that's what is really difficult, and that takes years to learn how to match color and texture and luster exactly. And it's pretty interesting. And especially white. White is made out of, at least in pottery and porcelain, typically yellow ochre and ultramarine blue. And oddly enough, to make it look lighter, you put maroon in it. And anyway, you learn this process, but ultimately, when you go through this, and it could take 6, 8, 10, 15, 20 steps to get a piece back to what it looked like originally, texture, feel, shine, you put it in the light, and the light reflects off it the same way. It takes a very long time to do that. But there is something about giving back its original form. And 90% of the work, the restoration work that's done, people want it to look like it did originally. And in a sense, it's almost as though the piece is reborn. So there are two ways of looking at it. Some people want to see the defects that were originally in the piece, and other people want to see how it was originally. So there's your lesson today in porcelain and pottery.
We're going to take 60 seconds before.
Oh, well, I was going to get the vacuum. Okay.
So I just want to throw out there, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Maya, I'm just playing around this perfection idea, and Charles is talking about perfection and getting it back to perfect. And I don't know, is the answer to that?
I'm perfecting branding.
There's so many things one could say, but thank you, Alana. Is the answer to the koan here, which I guess it is it that there is no perfection, and at the same time, everything is perfection? You know, so I don't know. So you just have to love it as it is.
I might come back to my comment about it's the journey, not the destination. And so it's the striving for perfection. It's striving to that edge, but it's unattainable because there is no perfection.
Yeah.
And so it's taking the clay that you have and working it.
Yeah. And perfection is totally different from everybody, for everybody. There's standards of perfection, but
well, I was
those
thinking,
are created by
I was,
us.
I was
people.
thinking when I was young, it's almost like Charles said, I wrote it down, invisible restorations. Like I thought covering up those mistakes, hiding those
Right.
flaws was what I was supposed to do, that the flaws were going to, the damage wasn't going to be what I wanted others to see.
Here,
And as I've gotten older, the journey and being comfortable with all of the imperfections, and that's why I love Wabi Sabi so much, because it accentuates the life, it accentuates the injury or the harm, and as that attention and love, compassion get placed on those cracks, it's just the tenderest, sweetest part of myself now. So there's not the hiding or the minimizing the pain and the injury, especially in the ending of a special relationship or a life. It's really almost celebrating those places in a way that it's the most human part of me. I think those pieces now that I used to hide, they're the sweetest, best parts. Everybody, it was such a beautiful talk, and everybody's wisdom. I love the Sangha. Honestly, wow, what a great group this is.
If I can just add one thing quickly, because I restored many, many, many pieces over the years, and I still on occasion do it for friends. But somebody gives you a piece that is a jumble of parts, and sometimes you can't even tell what the shape was originally. And you spend this time and effort to try to make it like what it was. And you finally finish and you give it back to the person. And you look at the expression on their face where they start turning it around and they can't see where it was originally damaged. And that in itself, that's just amazing to see them looking at this and saying, oh my God, I can't believe, you know what I'm saying? That is, it just, when they see what it was originally and it was brought back to them, that's an amazing experience for the person who actually did the restoration.
For both.
It's oneness, Charles.
I want to add one thing also, answering my question about when does a relationship get fired. There's the function of it that, let's say, a marriage it's a container for a family, for example, and it needs a certain structure and it's able to hold something. And that's when that rigidity is useful, it's good, it helps, it's like an eggshell that allows the thing to grow. And so, yeah, it's sort of the dancing paradox of like, is it alive? Is it the journey? And also then here's this thing now. How do we hold a wise container for Sangha, for example,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah.
What is the container we're creating?
Right.
And then, okay, hey, I think this is the shape now. Great, done. Let's test it or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when you say that, what comes to me, is it a pot that a plant is contained in, but has space to grow from, right?
That's beautiful.
Up to a certain level, or is it a eggshell this is the confines of that structure, that relationship, and it
The
has
con- yeah, the confines of the potential.
What was that, Rachel?
So it's like the confines of the potential. The eggshell is finite, and the pot is not.
Still, at some point, the roots need more room to grow too.
Yeah.
But so they
Yeah,
have
but-
their own benefits. They have their own conditions or whatever built into that structure.
I want to share that the therapeutic modality that I've used for now, I don't know, 3 decades, is called growth in connection. I think the name of it just speaks the whole thing. Connections have to be so resilient that people can grow or the organism doesn't flourish.
Mhm.
Thank you, Randy. For me, the vibrancy and the authenticity and the love and the personhood you bring to the talk this morning kept flowering, and everyone who spoke just continued to allow more flowering. I would say in my own personal thing, I can vouch for what was just said, that continuing to be in connection for this long period continues to make me grow.
Mm-hmm.
So I can vouch for its validity. And the growth that has occurred with the Sangha and the Sangha connections speaks to a vibrancy of the container, that it's not an eggshell and it's not a vase holding flowers, and it's not a burlap bag holding potatoes, which would not be very good for holding water. Just wouldn't use that as a container for water. And in a certain sense, what I think, what I could say now from what Alana just said, and Randy and everyone, that the container of the Sangha is a container that holds love and the possibility for growing things, which is all of our selves and the oneness that we are. And for me, that is experienced in my body when I say, I love the Sangha. I love the Sangha. It's just all of you, everyone who is here, because everyone is contributing, all the selves that are non-selves, all the selves that are one. It's just, it continues to be the experience of love for me, of love. Loving the Sangha is what love is. It's the experience of it. Mm-hmm. I love the Sangha.
Do you want a drum roll, Brady?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I was thinking about all the relationships I've found as well. I mean, the breaking things and putting them back together. I guess what I always feel like there's kind of a knowing yourself, I guess, in something that gets broken and then you have to put it back together. There's something that you really know that's what you want then. Like, especially in a relationship, if it breaks and you have to put it back together, it feels like, wow, that is like, you definitely know that you definitely need that. That's something you wanted. And now you have to go through the hard work of reconstructing. And it's just, it really helps, especially if it's in alignment with your truth. It helps you to become more and deeply in alignment with your truth and recognizing how quickly things can get broken and how long it takes to put back together. It's very fast versus, and the pain, I mean, the amount of work that goes into those sorts of things. It's just, I mean, I guess I have a tendency to err on not harming, but yeah, it's just, it's such a, I guess the thing is now, you know, to live in congruence with your own truth more deeply, because if you don't, if you falter even for a moment in a situation that's high intensity, it can cause so much damage. So it's like this kind of tightrope walking of like, always stay present, always stay with yourself, always stay with your deepest truth at every moment, and don't, the reactions, I guess, are the problem. The reactions, because reacting can cause harm, and in life too. If you break something, it's usually out of being hasty, not being fully present, you know, typically. I mean, not always, but like there's some sort of sense that it's like, well, that putting it back together kind of reinforces like, oh yeah, always stay present, don't do that, you know. And then it also makes something stronger. It makes you realize if you did break something and you put it back together, you definitely know you want it then. So yeah, anyway, thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you for all your shares. It's nice.
Doug?
We're ready to close. May our intentions equally penetrate every being and place with the true merit of the Buddha way. Beings are numberless. We vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. We vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. We vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. We vow to be it. Great. Thank you. Wonderful day. Wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. I just want to say, in Pat, I'm headed off to a meditation retreat, so I'm in silent meditation for the next, whatever, 5 days. So this is the perfect opportunity to release my voice. So thank you for receiving it.
Thank you.
And it will be there on the other side.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, hugs to John. Hugs to you, Doug.
Thanks.
Rachel, we did record it for John on my phone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. He will
This is
be.
the warm up. The main event is John talking, doing Dharma. I'm just the opening act.